Hello, everyone. This is episode 28 with You Can Slay That Again. And we are with Adriana, who is an intuitive business and mindset coach. Welcome, beautiful, stunning girl. How are you?
I'm so excited to be here. I am fabulous.
I was just saying to Adriana, please excuse how I talk because I've just got Invisalign. So you guys may hear a lisp in the background. And if you are watching the video, my mouth is quite funny. But I have to begin with this because I really love from, watching you on Instagram, how captivating you are with your stories, the content you're producing. Has this been something you've always put energy into, babe?
Yeah, I mean, I've been doing this for a long time, like years and years and years and years and years. So I feel like it's always something that I just had this awareness that it was really important. And so I spent a lot of time on it, a lot of energy on it. And I've been on Instagram with this brand for about 3 years, and my business before this for like 4 or 5 years prior. So it's been a long time of practice and nailing and putting time and energy into it. Yeah.
So important in what we do, right? Because people do get quite disheartened on content they put out if they don't get the engagement, the views, even just the response from people. How do you find that for yourself?
Totally. Oh my gosh. Sometimes I still navigate it and I'm like, Adriana, do the work, do the inner work, you're okay. But I always like to think of it as that every post we do or every piece of content we put out is like a ticket. So if we're seeing it as a ticket, it puts a little bit less pressure on it. It's like, well, this is a ticket to maybe this doing really well. This is a ticket to a new client. This is a ticket to this happening. And the more tickets I put out, the more tickets I get from the shops, and the more chance I have of it winning. So when we kind of do it like that, I find that just takes the pressure off a little bit.
Oh my goodness, that's such a beautiful way of looking at it, especially if it's like a golden ticket to your life and people coming into your space and just getting to know you more, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Tell me more about you, babe. Like, I'd love to know your story. This episode is all about the going in deep, and I know you're a deep person and you've got so much to share, but what began your journey and everything?
Yeah, it's super interesting. I feel like I always start this story at a different place. And I feel like this because there's so much obviously that brings together who we are and how we got to where we are now. I really feel like a big piece for me was my dad passing away when I was 18. Super young, super impressionable. And losing him then, and we were quite close, really set me up for this feeling of like, wow, life is pretty amazing and fragile. And we get to do this. And it made me a very hungry person. It almost like lit this fire in my belly of just like it still gives me chills of like, I want to do this and I want to make this work and I want to do like some cool stuff while I'm here. And I just became really quite quote unquote fearless. I was like, but very fearful. It's almost like I just did the things with the fear because I was like, oh well. And I took a gap year and I traveled and I started a business at 21 and I did all these cool things because I was like, well, why not? Like I actually couldn't fathom why not. And then through that, I hit some really big roadblocks, chronic fatigue, other chronic illnesses, really high functioning, very intense anxiety, all these other things that didn't make sense, stomach issues. No one could give me an answer for it. And I was like, what is happening? And at that time, I was still leaning a little bit on like the system in a way and trying to find answers. And no one could tell me what was happening. And I was like, well, there's more going on here. And that's when I realized that there was something going on within me, that there was grief I hadn't processed, that there was trauma that I hadn't looked at. And literally still gives me chills of that realization. And I would have been in my early 20s by this time of like, there is more to this. And I sat there in my room, I can remember at my mum's house, and I was like, I have to figure this out. And as we do, we get a little bit misguided along the way. And I found half truths and full truths and misguided truths. And then I kind of landed in this place of like, there's just more and I have to figure it out. And then that kind of spurred on my 20s in a way. And then I started the business I have now, and that created a whole other ripple effect. But I feel like that's the truth of how I got to what I'm doing now.
It always begins with the internal work, doesn't it? Like, and I love how you just, explain, the death of your dad and where it led you to where you are now. And I guess everything does connect, when you look back on everything. Do you ever feel like he's still present with you on anything that you do or say, decisions?
So much, like full goosebumps, everything, every day. He has been passed for maybe 11, almost 12 years now, and closer to 12 actually. And it's a long time. It's a time that I never thought I was going to say. I never thought I'd be like, oh, it was 12 years ago. And every time I need to tap into his energy, he's just here. I'm just like, hey, what do you think of this? And he was quite abrupt and loud and very opinionated. So I'm always like having a little giggle and being like, okay. And I'm still supporting his soul through his journey and work as well. And that's really special because he had so much unresolved work to do that his soul still needs support even in other dimensions. So that's been really beautiful as well. So our bond is still strong.
And what did you find that was, creating all the, the blocks, and you went through adrenal fatigue and all the other things? What was the thing that you really came to surface for you that you discovered?
So many little things. I'm not sure if you found this in like your journey too, but it was all these little things. But the main one that I think was on top of them all was control. It was like this deep, deep, deep seated need to control my surroundings so I could feel like safe, so I could feel like I wasn't going to die essentially. And it was just control of everything, control of my partners that I was with, control of what I ate, control of everything. And when I peeled back the layers of that quote unquote wound, I found all these other things underneath, as we do, people pleasing tendencies, fear of this, fear of that, and really started to get to know myself so much deeper. And like the work that you and I both do, it's just like layer upon layer upon layer.
Yeah, it doesn't stop.
Nope.
And I love that you said that because the need to control is so big in everyone. And what we do when it comes to being a coach, a business owner, a partner, a friend, we want to control everything around us. Do you find that there is still that element there for you, or do you really have this total, like, I'm here to just let go and just let everything be?
I would say if I had to give it like a percent, it would be like 80 to 95% allowing, and that other still 10, 15, sometimes it probably creeps to 20 of still wanting that control. And I find that I love thinking about, the fact that where each wound is like an onion and we're just getting deeper in that layer of the wound. And I'm so deep in that layer, but there is still layers to it. And I don't believe it'll be there forever. And I definitely, it's something I would love a lot clearer before I move into, childbirth, because you can't have a lot of control. So that's a big driver for me. I'm like, okay. So yeah, that will be where I kind of see it.
Love that. As I ask a lot of my guests what they're working on from a healing journey, what has been there for you that you're still working on? And I'm always happy to share my stuff too.
Yeah, I would love it. We'll have to go back and forth on that one. I think it's so interesting. Currently, obviously, we have the same mentor, so that's pretty cool. We're really at this point where what I'm working on is expanding. Mm-hmm. So what's really interesting about this is, and this makes me so excited to talk about, is that I'm so used to it being the shadow work or the inner work or the deep work or the sad work or whatever we want to call this other side, right? And I have to go in and there has to be something coming up. And now, like, every time I reach out to my mentor, she's just like, open, expand, life is good, allow it to be good. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, don't I need to be looking for something? So I'm really working on expanding my heart out and staying really open and staying in love and being like, this is really good. And ironically, that's just as challenging as the other stuff. So it's very interesting.
I love that you say that, babe. I feel we're on the same sort of energy in the same thing. Very much what happened with me today. I felt all this level of anxiety come in. I'm like, oh, what is this? And it was because I'm expanding my business, and I realized that we look for, you know, the shadow work or things that we need to do, the work and the wound and whatnot. And it was merely just Krista saying to me, babe, you're growing, allow it, you know, just go into laughter, go live, find, you know, keep loving. It's just you stepping into another layer of yourself, another version of yourself. And I was like, fuck, that's cool. So just to hear that from you.
How funny is that? So you would say that right now you're navigating kind of the same thing then?
Yeah, because almost, I mean, you can agree too, right? There's just been huge growth that we've been doing and a lot of healing. And now it's like the fun stuff that we get to do, which is expanding and stuff. So you're almost like, oh, I'm at that point now, kind of like not looking for the bad stuff. We're kind of like now just accepting where we are in a way of growth.
Yeah, and it's funny because I had so much resistance to the point of tears. I was like, I don't know if I can keep expanding. It's like we reach our pleasure like threshold, and I was like, but this is it. And then now, and it's funny because we moved near the beach, so our balcony has this like big ocean, like a wide ocean near Byron Bay, and I keep stepping out and I want to be like, whoa. But instead, it's allowed me to kind of expand out into the space and be like, how far can I like send my field to know that my capacity is so big for pleasure, for openness, for love. And it's been this really fun like game for myself.
I love that. And you live near the ocean. That must have been a huge vision for yourself.
Huge. It was like the dream was big balcony, live on the beach near a cafe. And I kept saying this to my boyfriend and he was like, okay. And then we found this place and we were literally like, oh my gosh, this is what we were describing. And it was just really seeing that, you know, dream life happen. And then it was interesting because when we got here, I had all this stuff come up. And Krista just said, she's like, this is the resistance to how good this can be. And I felt so frustrated at myself in that moment because I'm like, I'm here and all I can think about is what could go wrong. And it was such a cool lesson to expand into how cool it is.
Do you ever still have resistance when you've kind of reached that level and you see what you've accomplished, that it gets you a little bit?
Totally. I think I had it this morning. Like I woke up and I was a bit tired, and usually that's like resistance presenting itself in my body. And I went for a walk and I let it all sit in like before this. And I was like, interesting. There is nothing coming up. And I check, and it's always important, I think, to discern and check. And I was like, there's nothing really here. It was a resistance to how quickly I wanted to move today. And by quickly, I mean like I had some decisions to make. And I was like, Adriana, just make them. You'll make them and you'll have energy immediately. So yeah, totally still happens.
Are you allowed to share what those decisions were?
Yes. So one of them was actually, I found this really cool program that she was selling like all these trainings, and they were trainings on like the exact thing I wanted to learn next. And I was like, oh, but it's a lot of money. And which is interesting because I don't usually have money stuff come up at all anymore. And I was like, watching, do I really need them? But the intuition, my body was like, I don't know why you need these, but there's something, even if it's one thing that you're going to hear, that's going to change the game for you. And I'm at this point in my business where I'm experiencing really big scale. Like there's a lot of scaling happening, which is really exciting. But I was like, okay, but the brain, that like my mind wanted to be like, you don't really need this. You're already in something. You don't need this as well. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I can tell I'm actually going to purchase it after this. So now I've said this on a podcast, so I better go do it. I know I will feel lighter. I know I will have more energy just based on the fact that I've moved. Like I've moved forward. I've made decision quickly instead of sitting on it, which creates for me stagnation and tiredness, and probably for a lot of others too.
Love it. I have to congratulate you, babe, because I have seen you scale and I watch and congratulate and I'm celebrating you. And I need to share this because a lot of my clients, followers, people listening, people have, micro accounts, and what you do and what you teach people is you can make money. You can build a business with the followers you have, even if it's not as high as 10,000, 20,000, 50,000, because I'm looking at your account now, 5,581, and you're a six-figure business owner.
Yeah, multi-six now, so that's very fun.
Six, fuck yes, okay.
Yeah, it happened. So yeah, and firstly, thank you. And secondly, like this is such a cool thing for people to see, and that's why I get so excited to tell people this. So when I hit my first six figures, I had 2,500 followers. That's it.
Wow.
So when people are like, but I don't have a big following, or I don't have this, I'm like, I don't care. And I think something that's important to remember is like, for people who are listening who have businesses, is most of your clients are already in your following. You just need to take the time to connect with them.
Yeah.
Or it's that one person who follows you today and decides they want to work with you tomorrow. Like it's that simple. So I think that was really helpful. And now I grew my account, not a crazy amount, like you said, 5,500, and, making 20, 30, almost 40K months based on just those people who were there. And about 90% of my sales come through Instagram. So I think this is so cool for people to see.
Completely. And it's one of the things, because when I coach my clients too, they shouldn't be disheartened by the numbers of followers, right? It's the message, what you put out there, the content, the connection, speaking to people that really brings people into your world, right?
Yeah. And I think we underestimate like the connection piece. And I like to think of it like if I had 5,000 people in front of me, I wouldn't just be like looking at them staring awkwardly. I would be like, hey, what brought you here? Oh my gosh, what are you working on? So when we bring it into a bit more of that human feeling, it makes connecting, having conversations like a little bit less scary. And I always talk about how one month I had my lowest engagement from the point of view of like likes, comments, etc., and my highest cash month.
Yeah.
At that time. And I think we so think there has to be like a direct correlation between the two, but there just doesn't.
I have to agree with that, babe. From my own experience, yes, my followers are high. My engagement's shit. I used to have a lot of male followers too, but from a conversion place, my business is thriving, and it's really, really getting back to who you are as a person, who you need to be, what you're here to do, who you're serving, who you're there to inspire, and not being fixated on losing followers, engagement, none of that, but focusing on your business growth. That matters.
Yeah, exactly. And then every now and then I call it like taking my blinkers off, like how horses wear those little blinders, whatever they're called, and taking them off and kind of looking around and being like, okay, like what's happening? What trends could I follow, or what could I do to create more engagement, to reach more people? And then kind of going back in, putting your tunnel vision back on and doing your thing. So we're looking, but we're not like staying there looking, because I think that can get really overwhelming.
Yeah, I love that. And give me a bit of a rundown for tips for anyone listening who have similar followers to you on what you would do to really focus on a business growth mentality or just scaling.
Yeah, one is like, remember to have fun. This was all meant to be fun. And like stay activated. You know that feeling, you would totally feel this in your business when you're a bit like, nah, versus feeling like that activation in your body. I would say really stay activated. And from a practical point of view, I suggest to everyone, like all my clients, everyone that comes to me for this stuff, make more content. Like don't be afraid of putting out different types of content, posting more often. The next thing would be utilize your stories. Like I think we really underestimate how much stories sell. Like that's it.
Yeah.
Bottom line. Like stories is where I make probably most of my income from when it comes to Instagram. And then lastly, but not leastly, is the DMs. I think we're so scared of being like sleazy and gross in the DMs that then we just don't do it at all. but I think there's a way to do it that's focused on building connection and having conversation. And if what you get out of it is understanding your clients better, if what you get out of it is a cool podcast interview or a collaboration or a friend or a client, amazing. Nothing cool. But I think when we're focused on those things, we're getting more leverage out of what's already there. And it's a very, very underestimated task.
I love. I'm going to be moving and shuffling as my laptop is about to die. Give me a second.
Love it.
The DMs is one of the most powerful tools I also believe works, right?
Yeah.
Do you find you have a script for that, for what you give to your clients, or do you stay more true to what you're feeling and sensing? Because I know you're so connected to what you feel and energy as well.
So what I love to say is like create a structure that you can flow within. So everything in my business has a structure because I love that. And then Inner Mask loves that, the Yang loves that. And then I get my, creative flow and I flow within that structure. So I have a script, I give my clients a script, and then I flow in that. And essentially the script is pretty simple. It's like a broad question, a more narrow question, which might be like, what's your goal? What's your intention? An even more narrow question, which is like something you're struggling with. And then would it feel good with you? And always checking, like, don't just send someone a link. It's like, feels a bit gross. Would it feel good to you if I sent you the link to check out my workshop? Would it feel good to you if I did this? Would it, is that something you're comfortable with or you want right now? And then they'll be like, yeah, sure, shoot it through. And you've almost gotten that like micro commitment from them instead of being like, here's the thing.
Yes, I love that, babe. Would you feel it's so beautifully said, because it's not putting that force onto them and it's allowing them to come in, and the micro steps. I've never heard of that, actually. I love that. What would be the next step from that?
Well, it depends on like your close process. So like for some people, it would be selling something straight away through the link. Me personally, it's getting someone on a call. So it's getting them like on that quote unquote sales discovery call, whatever you want to call it, and to actually see if we're a good fit to work with each other. Or if they're looking for something lower ticket, it might just be to literally send that link over and get them to purchase that workshop or that training or whatever it is. Because essentially you're serving them. Like you're inviting them into your world in the way that's going to support them best. I literally have the answer to most small business owners' problems. So why wouldn't I be like, here you go. I spent 3 years trying to figure this out. Do you want it?
I love that. Oh my goodness, babe. This resonates so much because I'm a masculine person. I'm focusing more on the flow in my creative space too. So hearing all of this just resonates with me. And what I really want to find out, because you've said you love structure, you must have the remaining year planned and for next year, right? So for you, how do you get into that sort of flow of like really making a plan of what you want to achieve or work on for the next remaining months to 2023?
That's so funny because I was thinking about this just the other day, and I was thinking about how much less I've planned my future than ever before. And I used to be so fixated on having to look a certain way. And now more and more, I'm like, okay, I have this idea, but I'm more open than ever to how that comes about. So one of my big intentions between now and the end of this year, 2022, is to hit my first 50K month. And very exciting. And this month it is nowhere near that. And I'm so okay with that because I've set myself up so well in the foundations I've laid this month for that to happen, because I'm playing the long game all the time. I'm like, cool, I know that's happening and that's there. What needs to clean up now for that to happen? So that's like one fun thing.
That's beautiful, babe. And I think, again, really brings it back to anyone listening, from perseverance and the belief of, your growth and success in business. Not everyone's the same, and it's being okay with the shifts and turns and pivots and adapting to what may come your way, right? And when it comes to those types of months that the revenue is a bit different to another month, what do you prioritize the most?
It's so interesting navigating this in this now moment. For me, it was about cleaning up. So it was like, what needs to clean up in my business or in my mind or in my energy that is not allowing that to happen because I'm not ready yet. that's the reality. Like, I'm not ready to hold this yet. For me, that meant I needed an assistant bad. And I can't believe I didn't have one already. So hiring was a big task. It was hiring someone I vibed with. It was delegating and explaining all the tasks. So the tasks, the time I should say that I usually spent doing the task was now spent explaining it.
Yeah.
And I had to be okay with that. I had to be like, this month's season is a little different, but it's going to mean X, Y, Z. The other thing I'll prioritize massively is following up. So some people don't love the idea of following up and they feel like it's a needy energy. For me, it's just, where is the energy coming from? If my energy is coming from a not needy place, I don't need the sales. I'm not attached to where this month lands. And there's like 3 days left for context when this comes out.
Yep.
But I'm like, cool. If I follow them up and they choose to do it, great. If I follow them up and they choose not to do it, also great. Old me, this wasn't always the case. I would like cry and I would be like, what does this mean about me? But now it's so not like that anymore. So they're the things that I'm kind of going to prioritize and do that I think we underestimate as well. Like, there's so much in business that I feel like we just don't see happening. And these are stuff that I want to talk about more online as well, because I think they're super important conversations.
Yeah, 100%. The cleanup thing is beautiful, babe, because I have felt the same for myself. I've just recently hired too. Best decision I ever made. You weren't there, but we were at this Dream Fest event. We had this amazing speaker called Daniel G, and he basically said, when you want to hit a certain revenue goal, it's asking yourself, are you that person? Are you ready to be that person to hit 50K a month? Are you thinking like one, acting like one, embodying like one? Do you have the systems of one? And I listened to that and I was like, oh, fuck, that's a lot to think about. True, because it's not just wanting it, it's like embodying the work of what we need to do in order to get that.
Yeah.
And does that resonate with you at all when it comes to things?
So much.
Yeah.
And then I think too, it's like being honest with yourself. It's like actually being honest enough to be like, no, girl, girlfriend, you weren't there this month. And that's okay, because now you know what you need to go and do, and then it's coming. Instead of being a little bit, I think there's a little bit of sometimes entitlement. We don't mean to do it. I see it a lot in this industry. And it's like, well, you're not entitled to getting that yet. Like, so you have to become that first. And it's okay if you don't hit that on the way to becoming it.
Wow. I had like a call with Janelle. So just context those listening, this is Krista's assistant. And what just came up for me when you said that, because there's a level of myself where I start to get really, I guess, ego driven, like overly confident when I've like reached a certain revenue goal. And I catch myself doing this and I'm like, no, Tamara, get back to being relatable, get back to being you. And I find this is something that a lot of coaches or even business owners go through when they hit that certain, precipice in their business. They start to become really ego driven. Do you ever find when you get to that place, or if you don't, that's completely cool, because I have, when you get back to yourself, is there anything that you do in the process of getting back to who you are?
I feel like two things massively come up. So I was laughing while you were saying that, is that one is dropping back into my heart. Like, it's actually, for me, it's like it actually looks like a dropping. So it's almost like I'm in my head. And then it's like I see the little like sparkles and the glitter or the light kind of just drop back into my heart. And I'm like, this is where I'm operating from. Now let's decide. And then on the other side, I feel like what we do is we get a little like, as humans, like a little bit complacent and like a little bit confident. Like, I was hitting these massive months, month in, month out, and I was like, amazing. And then I stopped doing, so honest, right? I stopped doing the things that got me there. The extra community building, the extra messages, the extra this, the extra that. So I was like, well, this is happening. But what I realize now, and hopefully this helps people to not do this same thing, or if you need the lesson, that's cool too, to keep doing what you were doing to get to where you wanted. Like, keep doing the thing.
That hits so much for me. Yeah. And that's something, again, that came up in the event I went to. people will almost be like, well, I don't need to do this anymore because I've hit this level of growth. That's how you got there in the beginning.
Yes, it's like you're not going to be able to stop posting, unfortunately. Like Instagram's here to stay. You have to keep yourself, your shop open, as in your business. You have to keep yourself open, as in your energy self. So it doesn't stop. The game is quite relentless. And I always say, fall in love with the process, play the long game. And I say that for a reason, because we think it's just like, get here, that's it. I have so many clients come to me and be like, oh, it just keeps going, doesn't it? I'm like, yeah.
The same with healing. Oh, it's still there. It's still more to untangle and whatnot.
Yep, exactly like healing. Same. Business and healing and relationships, I feel like, are all this big soul journey of like never ending deliciousness.
Talk to me about your relationship with your boyfriend, beautiful. I've not heard about him or anything like that. Is he coming to the modality day? Will I get to see him? Or
Yes. He's a real human. He just doesn't get shown a lot on my Instagram. I need to show him more. He's fantastic. He's coming to that day we're sharing together. We're also going to do Krista's retreat together, which will be really beautiful. And we've been together actually for about 2 years now. And we met during everything happening in the world. So it was such an interesting time to come together. And there was so much, we brought up the perfect things in each other, like true soulmates, like absolute, fire meeting fire of just like, that is my exact thing. Why are you here? Why are you doing this to me? And huge navigations to kind of where we are now. We actually just joked the other day, he's going to laugh at me, you can probably hear me saying this, that it's like we're falling really back in love with each other, because so much of what we had to work through had been cleared. And I think there's this false idea that like you're going to get into a relationship, and I wonder if you and your Jordan, I think you're saying this, have experienced this, like you feel like it's meant to be like easy and you're just going to like fall in love and there's going to be all this chemistry. And I was like, oh no, like this is work, this is kind of hard. And now we're 2 years in and we're like, oh, I love you, this feels easy.
I fucking resonate again. I'm just saying, resonating, love it. It's so funny you bring all this up, because we went through something not long ago where it felt like we had reconnected and fallen in love. He just said this to me today. I want us to spend time together when we're not working, we're not with friends, it's just you and me. He literally said this to me today. And now that you've just said, this beautiful piece about you and your partner, where you're 2 years in, the work is hard, yet you're so much more in love, more than ever. It just goes to show like how important it is to see the relationship not as easy breezy as it is, but worth it. And I don't know if this is something you can relate to, babe. I find myself when I'm in work mode, I neglect Jordan sometimes, not in a bad way, but I just get so tunnel visioned. So advice on that, babe, like when, being with your partner for 2 years, like where do you navigate to make sure that there's still this love and connection and fire that I can sense in my body right now that you guys have?
Yes, so this has been huge, like actually hilarious that you're bringing this up, because one of our biggest navigations was that I was so in my masculine when we met that all I wanted to do was like work and focus and make money and do all the things and provide and it was very masculine qualities, and it really got in the way for us because I couldn't drop in. I couldn't be, really sensual. I couldn't be really intimate. I couldn't pause during the day. So what would happen is I would be like working away, and Greg, it's his name, would come up to me and like give me a kiss. I'd be like, I'm working. What are you doing? And then I realized that, wow, I was not allowing myself to go from mask to femme to mask to femme. And I got all this pain in my body, all this pain in my jaw and my shoulder, my lower back. And once I started to drop in, like when he came over, this is just a really simple example, to give me a kiss while I was working, I leant in. I was like, hi, and like allow it and be all soft and girly. And what that actually opened up for us in our relationship was phenomenal. So for me, it meant, in all the moments, dropping in, leaning back, pausing for a second, as hard as it was at the start, because all I could think about was, I want to work right now. Even if it was like 2 seconds, 1 minute. But now it's being like, be in this moment. This is really, really beautiful. This feels challenging, but be here. And that helped us to kind of navigate that masculine and feminine dance and balance. It also helped that he's super aware of all of this, so we could kind of navigate it together.
I love, babe, because I find and this is very much me speaking truth, I find it hard to go masculine, feminine. There goes my Invisalign, when I'm in such a workflow state. So just to hear that, it's those little moments, because he literally was here before and I was like, I've got my podcast. So thank you for the reminder, because this is what the theme has been today. Lean in. What was it? Drop in. That's it. Drop into your heart center and surrender almost.
And almost like a lean back. So the fem is like that lean back, and that mask is that lean forward. So I'm always like, and I just physically do it with my body. I'll lean back and away from him. And I find that helps me be more in my fem, because the heart's more open, the fem is back, the mask is forward.
Oh, I love that. Thank you, babe. I'm going to give him a big hug. And again, this is for anyone listening, because you guys would have obviously gone through the episodes that I've explained and had beautiful guest speakers, and Adriana is also part of Krista's mentorship. We really focus on, having the balance of masculine and feminine in all things in business, relationships and whatnot. Even just that little piece where you lean back, honestly, that's going to be something I'm going to make sure I start to do. Do you have any more of those little hacks for anyone listening when it comes to navigating through masculine and feminine?
Yeah, game changer. I'm such a big fan of like little things in your tool belt to be like, oh, I'm going to take that tool. I think another thing to keep navigating that is like, one is obviously really high communication, but I feel like that's obvious, but also not obvious at the same time. The other one is understanding each other's love language. It's so simple and almost like a little bit cliche, but how much that's helped he and I has been huge. Like, if you don't know it, like, go do the quiz. And to everyone listening, it was so helpful. So mine is quality time. And what we found is, if we don't spend like dinner together all the time after dinner together, I don't want to be affectionate at all, because I need all this like romanticized chat time. Oh my gosh. And his is physical touch. So for him, I need to be able to do all those little extra things that are physical touch when I don't really prioritize that. So I think understanding that and acting into your partner's, not just your own, is so helpful. And the other thing I did, this one's a little funny, it's a bit interesting, that is almost in your mind, see how far you can push something. So for example, affection. I might be like, this is my threshold of affection. Can I stay for a few more seconds? Can I lean in a little bit more to like that love and that allowance? And what I found is then my capacity, my energetic capacity for whatever it is, it grew and grew over time. I remember one of my first coaches, he said to me when I met Greg, he said this line to me. He said, how can you stay when you normally run?
Wow.
And it changed like my whole life. I don't even know if we'd be together if I hadn't been told that one line. How can you stay when you normally run? And for me, that really helped, because I was like, okay, I want to stay in this when I want to go do the things and be busy, or say no or get scared and run away.
Wow. And do you find the more you and Greg do the work together, your business and everything in your life starts to feel more aligned?
Totally. And easier. Like, it's just easier. It's easier to be like, oh, what do we want to do next year? Or the big conversations, when do we want kids? And I'm always like, oh, I want a baby. And like, it's so funny, because you actually get to have those really open combos of like, this is when it would feel good to me and why. this is when it would feel good to me, and why. Okay, cool. When do we want to travel next? Oh, this is when. Oh, this is when. Oh, are you resenting me for anything? Oh, I'm actually resenting you for that comment the other day. Amazing, interesting. How could I have said that differently? And then as we navigate all of this, everything's easier. I can make decisions easier. We can go grow our businesses easier because we're not like holding on to each other for dear life.
When do you want babies?
Tomorrow, if I was allowed. No. So funny. For me, I feel like I'm someone who loves to, I feel like there's definitely more of that self-work, that shedding, that knowing in myself that is available to me before that period. And I feel like that will be really beautiful to navigate before, especially because I've only recently just got over chronic illness, you know, through working with Krista on the emotions behind the illnesses and actually fully letting them go almost, I would say almost 100%, that there is still these pieces I want to fully land before that happens. So I feel like in an ideal world, it'll probably be like in 2 years from now. But I also have a sense that I'm open to it being sooner, but I'm so aware of like, I love for humans in general to be aware of really where we're at and allow ourselves to keep kind of peeling back our layers.
Yeah. Baby talk has been a lot for me lately, so I love that.
What do you think? What's your, I want to know this about you.
It's so funny, and I'm being very open about this, but whenever Jordan and I get intimate, I'm always like, let's have a baby now in the moment. And it's kind of like, I forget what's going on in my life and what's happening. But this is probably the first relationship I've been in where I'm so excited to be a mum, to share a life with someone and, give our future kids the life that, I never had as a child. So it makes me quite emotional in a really happy way. And he wants kids very soon. And, me being more masculine, I still have so much to do with work and also my internal healing that comes up a lot, particularly around my dad. And we're navigating through that as I'm speaking to you right now. So it's definitely soon. I say 2 to 3 years, but if it happens, right?
Yeah, exactly. We might be twins, might be at the same time. This is so funny.
I can't wait to see you. God, next month. Like, it's coming up so quickly, right?
Yeah, so beautiful. And like, even to be around, Krista and I were having that conversation around proximity. And I feel like for people to remember like that proximity around like spending time with people who are doing epic things like you and making big moves. And I think for me, that feels really exciting to spend more time with other people who are doing this work too, and who are doing the scary things and making moves. So I feel like that's the one thing I'm really, really, really feeling excited about right now.
You know what, babe? I was sitting with Jordan and we had this big chat about like really being around people that do lift us up, inspire us, that are doing so well. And it made me think about, okay, what do I need to start doing less of in order to reach that level of where these people are, like Krista, that are doing such amazing things? And I'm sure you've thought about this too, reflecting on where you are now and being in the arena of people of, growth and success. Is there stuff that comes up for you that you feel needs to either be removed or changed or do less of?
I feel like I've navigated this massively recently, and I'd love to hear your answer. I feel like it would be so cool for everyone as well. For me, I feel like it was a bit of taking out, so the less of, but there was things that really need to get added in. A big one for me was going back to the gym, actually. We have like a beautiful home gym here that I was like not using. And it was actually about pulling back some really interesting like relationship with food and doing the deep work around the control and relationship with my dad on food and all of these things that are actually connected, which, you teach and know so well. And then it was almost like stripping all of it back, no working out, no taking out a lot of food in my world to see what happened and see what was brought up. Oh my gosh, I think I'd never like being so angry at Krista. I was like a little child. I was like, I don't want to do this. And so much when we took those things away from me, so much came up. And I can see now that they needed to fall away to step in and have this healthy relationship with, in this case, food and, you know, working out and enjoying it. And another big piece was, it's so simple, right? But it was learning how to speak my truth more. And there were so many moments where I realized I would lock my jaw, and it was out of fear of being like, I want to say it like that. They're not ready to hear that much truth. Oh, I'll just say it in a nicer way and I'll be more pleasing. By the way, I never would have considered I was a people pleaser until realizing this. And then I kind of had to unlearn that. So again, taking away, but now to add in the when to speak up and when to be like, this conversation is not for me, and navigate that piece. So they were two huge things where I took a lot of way to add in.
Unlearn to relearn. It's really interesting. Wow. Because from my own journey too, babe, the health was big too. From a completely different perspective, I went through a phase of not eating and, you know, kind of didn't realize I had this issue. And I don't even know if I've spoken about this on my podcast or to anyone, but last year I stopped training and I stopped eating because I was so focused on work. I got really sick and didn't see the importance. And I used to be a fitness coach, babe. I didn't see the importance of eating.
Yeah,
I was
wow.
focused on work and I stopped training. I was a coach, a fitness coach. So I completely understand when you need to remove something and then to bring it back in from a completely different perspective, from a different version of yourself. And I love that you brought those two things up because people pleasing has been my other thing that I'm working on right now.
So would you say that's one of your like letting goes? Has there been other ones as well?
Yeah, that and people pleasing and I'm trying to think of how to word it. But reflection, because I've always been, what's the next thing? What's the next thing? What's the next thing? It's like it's never enough.
Yeah, which is super masculine too.
Yeah. And I'm getting better at it, but it's still very present. And I think it's because of where I've sort of come from, and even in the fitness space, how we used to promote our business, that has been huge for me to kind of reflect, be proud of where I am now, and just really trusting that you don't need to kill yourself in order to build a business. You don't need to be on social media 24/7 to make sales. You don't need to, show up when you're not feeling aligned. You know, there was all of those mechanisms and structure I had from my space in the fitness space that I'm removing slowly yet surely. And being around the people I was with, including Krista, and watching her grow, and you as well, is what I really want to focus on letting go for the next couple of months.
How cool is that? And I think it's like this duality of like business is hard work, but it doesn't have to be hard work. And it almost doesn't make sense because I think some people come to me and they think it's going to be really easy and they're not putting in the time, the effort, the energy, the hours. And I'm like, no, it takes more than that. And then other people come to me and I'm like, oh, babe, we need to wind back. Yeah, so it's knowing and being discerning enough to know which is which. Because then on the flip side, I think for a lot of people, they hear that and they're, oh, I'm not going to do all the things. And it's like, how do we do them? But the energy of which we do the thing, not be from this like rah, 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 I have to energy. And it's such a little like, discernment game.
Yeah, it's choosing, right?
Yeah.
Wow. I could talk to you all day, babe. Like, why am I only now talking to you? Like in this, context of like getting to know you on a deeper level. I honestly fucking love you. I love you so much, and everything that you're doing. Like I'm here for it. I'm celebrating everything. What's next for you? So the listeners know.
Yeah, firstly, I love you too. Secondly, for me, really next is just focusing on scaling what's here. So at the moment, I'm really focusing on my beautiful group program, and it's really about having people in my world that are focused on both the energetic side of business with the strategic side of business. I love both, and I believe we need both, and my brain kind of gets off on both. So I'm really loving showing people how we bring both worlds together, that it's not just the energetics, but it's definitely not just strategy. We get to bring both in and literally blow up our worlds. Like, we get to have these epic businesses that make full-time income plus 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 plus, and we get to have epic relationships and live where we want and all the things. So that's really, really my focus right now.
Quick question, beautiful. Can you see me right now?
Yes.
Cool. My screen has gone like all these different colors up there. So I'm going to keep talking, but just wanted to check if you can see me. I love that you want focus, like you're focusing on the scaling and showing people that it's the energy work, but also the strategy in place. What would be an example of the energy work that you would implement?
Yeah, so for me, I kind of, I tap in energetically. So whether it's intuitively, psychically, it's a little bit of kind of both, one and the same really, and really show people where that layer is. So it's like that the emotional injury is here and that's what's holding you back. Or sometimes it's more of that mindset we need. Like, we need to be, quite devoted and determined and to be consistent. And how do we build those qualities in us? Or how do we build the more flow and allowance qualities within us? But how do we peel back the layers and actually just like go in? Sometimes my clients will message me and I'll just be like, oh, it's this thing that I'm looking at. And they'll just like, whoa, cry. And I'm like, yeah, there we go. So it's being able to look at all those things like we similarly do, with our clients or with Krista, and being able to navigate that to what it truly is in that moment versus what we think it might be.
Gorgeous girl. I want to make a promise to you. When you hit 50K a month, I'm going to come visit you and celebrate. How does that sound?
I love this. Now everybody knows. It's so funny because I said to Greg before this, I was like, I really love Tamara. I'm very excited for that.
I can't wait. I just want to celebrate you, beautiful girl. And I always finish with this question. It's the only question I plan, as you know. And that is, what does slay mean to you?
Oh, fun. To me, it's this energy of like, I'm touching my heart right now if you can't see me. It's like this energy of like, that's the sound I want to make. It's like going and getting it. It's almost a little bit like, for me, it's almost that like sexual energy that we cultivate within us when we run our lives, when we speak, when we run our businesses. And it's just like going and getting it. A bit of that, I almost feel a little bit of that queen energy in there too. It's like that energy of like, I've got this and I'm claiming this and this is mine.
Fuck, I feel that. Yes, that was the most amazing answer, baby girl. Where can everyone find you? Please share all the handles that you have. Programs, go for it, beautiful.
I'm an Instagram gal through and through. So I definitely always say for people follow me on Instagram, I'm sure you'll pop it below, but it's Adriana Loves, Adriana with one N. And there I kind of share everything. I give loads of value away. I answer all my DMs eventually. So if you have a question or a comment on anything that came up, that would be the place to go. And there's lots of free resources. There's places you can plug in to apply for my group programs and things like that as well. Or even just to, have a chitty chat and get to know me better. I love it. It's such a cool space.
Oh, thank you, beautiful girl. And thank you so much for taking the time to be here today. I'm going to see you very, very soon. I love you so, so much. And again, like, you're a queen and you're doing so well. And I just want you to remember that. Like, I'm watching from
right back at you.
Thank you, beautiful. I can't pause this because I'm going to send you a photo
Yeah.
Right now, just so you can see what I'm seeing right now. I'm going to just jump on Instagram. This is like, thank God it only happened towards the end because I don't know how I would have done this, but
Are you sending it to me? My phone's on Do Not Disturb.
oh, I didn't even, hang on, where are you? Yeah, it's Jordan. Come see the screen.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. And she's still there.
Hi, by the way, I can see you.
Hello, I can't see you. It looks like
I just said it.
the old ABC screen where you had all the stripy colours.
Oh my gosh, I just opened a photo. That's
Yeah.
that's epic. Like 90s vibes.
Just towards the end though, that when I said, and I don't know if you can see me right now, and you're like, yep, I can. I'm like, boop. Because I don't know. You're
Oh,
back.
weird. I hope your laptop's okay.
Oh,
I
you're
think
back
your-
now.
I think your laptop's dying.
Oh,
Yeah, it's
The
really,
screen's now flashing.
yeah, but I can see you. I'm gonna stop recording.
nice.